When you don't have a problem with something, it's less likely for someone to say something to you about that thing and it affects you. But when you personally struggle with something and somebody is gonna point it out every single day, then it's more likely to push you over the edge to do the extreme. Hello my darlings, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Mariam and I thank you so much for clicking on this video. You guys can see I'm back in my bedroom today. I don't know, for some strange reason when I'm filming these types of personal videos, I feel a bit more comfortable, a bit more safe sitting in my bedroom for some reason, but we'll see if I change it up going forward. So as you guys saw in the title, today I want to share a very personal story with you guys and kind of touch on a topic that I've been longing to talk about for quite some time, and I just felt led to do it today. So this video is quite spontaneous, so I will not be using any notes. I'll just be speaking directly from my heart, so I just hope I don't ramble too much. But this is something that is truly dear to me, and I wanted to share my story in the hopes that it might help someone. So as far as I can remember, I've always been an extremely skinny girl, and I am a little bit above average height. So I'm 5'6.5" inches or 169 centimeters. And yeah, so I was somewhat like a tall, skinny female. So growing up in Jamaica, it was common to hear that you're long and mager. They would say in Jamaican patois, you're long and mager like. When somebody was upset with you, whether it be a relative or whether it be your peers at school, it was pretty typical to hear how skinny you were. As I grew older and I got to like about high school, that was when the realization hit me of how skinny I was in comparison to my peers. And what made it worse was that I was a late bloomer. So by the time I was about 14, I still had no breast, I had no curves. I was just really tall and straight, and I started to realize other girls having breasts and having a nice form. And I went to an all-girls Catholic school in Kingston, Jamaica. So of course I started to pay attention, started to compare myself with these females, and I started to dislike my body and didn't feel so much like a female. There were days, even when I was about 12, 13 years old, I could walk around in the yard like a boy would without a shirt, and there would be no bust protruding because I had no signs, no secondary characteristics, no breasts or anything like that. And like I said, I went to an all-girls high school, so being around females all the time, we know girls can be so mean. They can just tear you to pieces. So of course I was picked upon, especially when it was time for swimming. I remember being so ashamed to even go in a swimwear for swimming classes, and we had to do swimming classes I think every other week. So one week we'd have like swimming, the other week we'd have like maybe netball or track and field or something like that as our physical education. So I hated swim classes because I just did not want to have to put on a swimwear so they could see how skinny like a stick I was. So I thought to myself, as soon as I got old enough and I got some money, I would do something about it. And if you don't know anything about the Jamaican culture, in Jamaica there is an appreciation for more thicker, curvier women than there is for skinnier women. Whereas it is the opposite here in Europe, being that a skinnier body type is considered as more beautiful than a thicker body type. When I was still in high school, I became obsessed with not being so skinny, and I tried to find out what I could use so I could gain weight. And that's when I found this pill that I usually take back then. It's called Peritol, and I started taking Peritol when I was about 14, 15. I was in high school. It actually enhances your appetite, so I would take that every single day so that I would eat a lot more food and I would just constantly want to eat, and it would also make you sleep a lot. So what happened back then was that I would be sleeping out a lot of my classes because I just could not keep my eyes open, and sometimes I would even be called out by the teacher for sleeping in class, but it was because I was on this pill. Of course I did gain a little bit of weight, but it was not enough. My metabolism was just way too fast, so it did not give me the weight gains that I actually wanted. So years later, when I started working and I was in the working field, you would think that it would get a lot easier in terms of being pressured by your peers, but no, I would say they kind of increased because I realized at this time I was a lot older and I had breasts at this time, but I still didn't have the wide hips or the shape or anything like that. I was still just quite skinny and I was still tall. So the hopes that I would achieve this body by the time I was maybe 21 years old that is out the door, because here I am at 21 and it's still not there. So since high school coming all the way up, I've always been in an all-girls environment. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, then I went to beauty school, which was all girls, and then I worked in an industry which is female dominated. So I was always constantly around females, and females like to talk and we like to pick at each other and criticize and compare ourselves with each other. So here I was at this workplace where there are grown-up women there, and then I would find the same thing that happened at high school started happening here as well, where the joke would always be on how skinny I was, or what my weight is when I go on the scale. And let me say something, because all the time when I see on the internet people talk about body dysmorphia and people struggling with their weight, it was always from the side of being thicker and feeling insecure in comparison to skinnier people. My sisters are also skinny, and this is a discussion that we have even up until today, where somebody would still be picking at their size or their weight or their height, and it's just not okay. Whether you're on the thicker, fluffier side, as Jamaicans like to call it, they like to call you fluffy, which is like a nicer term for saying fat, or if you're on the side of being skinny. So I remember going to work, and there was this particular coworker. I really love her, but she always did this thing that really irritated me. Every morning I'd come in and I would say good morning to her. She would always say morning slim body. She would never call me by my name. She always said morning slim body. Or one day she would come to me and say, oh, what is your weight when you stand on the scale? And wow, you're so thin. And one day I got sick at work and I went to buy my lunch, and I remember when I came back, she was like, oh, I can't believe they let you go out in the wind by yourself, because it was like a windy day. And she was like, how could they let you go out in the wind by yourself, and you're ill and you're already so skinny, and if you go out in the wind, we're worried that you might get blown away. And it might seem like concern, but it's also for a person, you never really know what a person struggles with. And the same way we would not do that with a person who we think is fat, because they would say, oh, it's body shaming. How do we sit and feel comfortable to do it with a person who is skinny? You never know the pills that someone is taking at night just so they can gain weight. So I do think it's inconsiderate to just do it to one side of the fence and then to reserve it when it comes on to the other side of the fence. I just think if we're gonna respect bodies overall, we respect all body types. And I never really said anything to her. I would just give a smile and just move out my day, because I just didn't want to bring too much attention to myself, because the other co-workers were also there and they could all agree that I was just really skinny in comparison to them. And I remember one morning I came to work and she greeted me her usual way by saying morning slim body, and I gave a smile and I said morning fat body, because she's a fluffier woman. And she was astonished and she looked at me and she said, you're not nice. And I was thinking, like, you call me slim body for more than a year of me working here and I'm not nice? So that was a realization for me that she was not so proud of her fluffy body like I initially thought. In fact, she was ashamed of her body, and it was maybe a projection of her own insecurity that was being played out by pointing attention to my extremely thin body. I want to give you guys another example that really hit home for me, and this is while I was still working at this salon and spa in Jamaica. There was this client who was sitting under the hair dryer, and I wasn't working in the hair department, but she just, like, she was calling me, she was under the hair dryer. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe the dryer is too hot. I'm in uniform, I work there, so I could obviously just help her. So she called to me and I'm like going over to her thinking that I'm gonna just adjust the dryer or pull out a roller out of her hair or a pin or something. And then she said, come here, with a sense of urgency. So I ran over to her. I was going to a client maybe to do a facial or something, and then she called me and I ran over to her and she said to me, can I ask you something? And I was like, yes. And she said, when you were younger, your parents didn't give you any food to eat? I didn't only feel disrespected by myself, I felt like it was also a disrespect to my parents to say that they didn't give me any food to eat, as if she was saying I was starving. I mean, I was extremely thin, but to say I was starving would be like, even if I was starving, that would not be the way you help me if I'm starving. You would ask me if I've had lunch already, if you want to buy me something. If you're saying you're a good Samaritan, you would not say if my parents didn't give me any food to eat. You understand what I'm saying? It's just not the right way, because they always have a good excuse for why they do what they do and say, oh, it's because I care. But if you care, you don't say that, because that is not a kind comment to say to anyone. I didn't reply to her the way that I thought of, because back then, I tell you guys, my clapbacks, they were really on point. They were so quick. she would have gotten it, but I was at work and I believe in professionalism, so I would not retaliate, even though she was extremely rude in my opinion. But I did feel offended by her remarks. And one thing I noticed that she had in common with the other lady was that they were both fluffy women. So I just remembered that maybe she was also struggling with her weight and she's used to being criticized for her weight, so she's gonna put it off on the first skinny person that she saw. It was just like two instances. I could go on for days to give you guys all my crazy stories of the amount of times I've been in this type of situation where people would stop me or criticize me or mock me or something like that for my weight. And it's not like a high school thing anymore where you would say you're just young and the children are just going through puberty, we're just so immature. These are grown-ups, these are adult women who could possibly be my mother that were doing this thing. So I was still struggling with my own insecurities with my body, because that's the main thing. When you don't have a problem with something, it's less likely for someone to say something to you about that thing and it affects you. But when you personally struggle with something and somebody is gonna point it out every single day, then it's more likely to push you over the edge to do the extreme. So of course I was looking into the extreme. Plastic surgery wasn't so popular in Jamaica at that time. I don't know how it is there right now, but then there was a thing called fowl pill. It's called fowl pill or chicken pill. Yes, this is a hormone that you give to the animals to let the chicken get really fat before you kill it, so you can sell a nice fat round chicken to the customers. So I was so desperate, guys. This is like, I've never spoken about this before. It's kind of funny and it's kind of embarrassing all at the same time. I was still taking Peritol at this time, but Peritol was just going way too slow, and I just needed to get some weight, and it was just like almost impossible for me. So I remember there was a time when I would call and I would pretend like I was a man, because I thought if they could pick up that I was a female, it'd be more suspicious that I wanted a foul pill for myself, because I heard stories that girls would take foul pill back in the days so they'd get a big bottom and big breast. I don't know how true that is, but I started to pretend now. So I would put on this masculine voice and try to pretend like I was this farmer, calling all over to every single store I could possibly find in the directory, asking them if they have fowl pill. I need some fowl pills for my farm, for my chickens, because I'm raising chickens. And I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was so desperate, and my mind, I was in a totally different frame of mind. You can't even imagine the frame of mind that I was in back then. When I started looking into these extreme measures for gaining weight, I was maybe about 18, 19, 20, from anywhere from 18 going up to 22. I was in a totally different mindset. Like, the first thing is that your brain is not even completely developed at that age. You don't have all the brain cells that you need to take you through life at that age. And here I was on my last, desperate, saying I would give anything right now to be the body type that I wanted to be. I remember one time, my best friend and I back then, we went to a doctor and we asked him if he could prescribe hormones for us, because she was also a really skinny girl, but she has such a beautiful shape. I don't know what she was seeing. She has such a beautiful body. She was a lot thicker than I was, but she was also on the skinnier side, and like I told you, in Jamaica, the fluffier the better. So we went to this doctor and we were literally just begging him. We begged this doctor to prescribe hormones for us. We were like, give them to us, we want it. And he started to tell us all the side effects, that he cannot prescribe it for us because we're not fully mature and all these things can happen, and he could never do that to us. He said to us that we could get like a fat neck and we maybe put on weight up here, and our shoulders might change in shape and all this type of stuff. And you should listen to us young girls with our little young brains. We were like, give it to us, we want it. We will worry about the other part. Just give us the prescription. And he tried to talk to us and said, you guys have a beautiful body. What is your problem? Why are you doing this? And we were like, we need it. We need it. So of course he didn't give us the hormones. Thank God, because we don't know what would have happened to us. We could have died, or something severe could have happened to us, because he was telling us like some terrible side effects, but we still were willing to risk it. Like, it was just so sad, you know, like so sad. so sad to see how desperate we were and the length that we would go through just to get something that is so fickle. I just want to say that God is sovereign. So even when we are here thinking that, oh, you need to be rich tomorrow because we're going to do the charity and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we have a good heart, God is sovereign. He knows why. He knows everything. And he knows that if I was in a better position back then, if I was in a different family, if I was living in a different country where I had more access to plastic surgery and stuff like that, I would have done that to myself at maybe 18 or even younger. And I would have regretted it today. Sitting here, I can tell you at 32 years old, I would have terribly regretted that decision. So pretty much because I didn't get the foul pill and I didn't get the hormones from the doctor, I resorted to taking Peritol again, and I would just constantly eat. I would just eat like several times a day. I ate when I wasn't hungry. I ate when I was hungry. I could be full and I would just keep eating because that's what Peritol does to you. It opens your appetite, so you constantly just eat like you have no end. And then after you finish eating, you would just go to sleep. So you get a lot of indigestion as well because you just constantly eat. You don't get time to digest properly before you start eating again. And then what happens next? You fall asleep. And I was taking Peritol until I met my husband. So I remember one time we went on a vacation in Jamaica, and that was the last day I took Peritol. That was several years ago. That was like 7 years ago was the last time I took Peritol because my husband found out I was taking them. At that time, he was my boyfriend. And we went out to a hotel and I just couldn't keep my eyes open, you know. I was secretly taking my pills. So he realized that I was sleeping a lot. Like I would be up for 2 hours and then I just could not keep awake. And he was wondering, why do you keep sleeping? Why you keep falling asleep? I go to the pool, I want to sleep. I have to go back to the room because I just need to sleep. Your girl just needs to sleep, okay? So I just kept sleeping. So I just kept sleeping, just eating and sleeping. And he started to ask me like, what is wrong with you? Why do you keep sleeping? And then I was honest and I just told him that I took it because I wanted to gain weight. Of course, he was shocked because he didn't see any need for me to gain any weight. He saw me as a skinny girl and he wanted a skinny girl. And here I was, because my mind was so brainwashed to think that my skinny body type was not beautiful and nobody would like that skinny body type. So even though I met a man who was then my boyfriend and now my husband, I still had that mindset where I just wanted to still get thicker. But he asked me, please never take them again. I just listened and I just stopped taking them. So that was the last day that I took Peritol in my entire life, 7 years ago. Of course, my insecurities with my body didn't just go away like that overnight. Sometimes I think about it, what if I had done all of these things that I wanted to do? What if I had access to remake my body to my liking? I wouldn't have met my husband. Of course, he didn't just talk to me because I'm slim, but that was one of the things about me that attracted him. He likes this really skinny, tall girl. Even if you're there thinking right now that, oh, you don't have the perfect body, or you need to get surgeries, or you don't have the perfect face, or the perfect this, or the perfect that. Nobody has the perfect anything. And just ignore this societal standard of what is beautiful, because to be honest, there is not really a standard. There's a standard in each different area of the world that you go to. In Jamaica, there is one standard. In some parts of America, there's another standard. In Japan, there's another standard. So before you even think, if you have so much money and so much desperation to the point where you're gonna go under the knife to alter yourself, I would say take a trip. Take a trip to a part of the world that is totally different from the culture that you're familiar with. I'm so grateful for the circumstances that I was in at that time, where God prevented me from having resources to ruin my body. I'm so grateful for that. I can't even explain to you guys how grateful I am. But for the generation that is here now, you know, like people are working their paycheck to do stuff like that. I like to encourage young people to take a trip, or older people, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a person who is just living in one country all the time and you've never really visited anywhere else, you're only seeing things from one vantage point. Can't tell you what to do with your money, but I think it's a wise thing to go and see the world from another vantage point. If you're living in Jamaica, for example, don't just go to the US, because Jamaica takes so much from the US in terms of the influence. So we're always looking to America to do what we see Americans do. So if you just go to America, it might just confirm your desire to get a surgery and you're just like 18 or 19. And I do say the world is way bigger than just a few countries. Not every country is on board and excited about people walking around with fake things. I don't say this to be offensive. I say this with all love, knowing the 18-year-old, the 19-year-old that I was, and how desperately I would get my hand on anything at the time I could, just to fit the societal standard of beauty. So when I say this to you, I don't want you to feel like I'm judging you. I'm just saying this to you that you know that there's more to the world than this little corner that you currently occupy. So I would say travel to different continents. If you're in Africa, you might need to take a trip to Europe or to Asia, because it's a totally different view based on where you're standing. I honestly can't really remember seeing girls walking around here with fake booty. It's just not a thing here. And I think if someone were to walk around with that, they would kind of stick out here. In most places in Europe, they would kind of stick out. So before you do anything like that, I would say take a trip, give yourself some time to grow some brain cells. I also want to say, stop allowing this culture to dictate the standard of beauty, because one day it's tall and skinny, the next day it's short and curvaceous, and it just constantly changes. So it's just like chasing waterfall. You will constantly just adjust yourself, and you will never ever be the standard of beauty no matter what you do, because what is the standard of beauty in Europe is not necessarily the standard of beauty in Asia or in the Caribbean. It constantly changes where you go, and it constantly changes every couple of years. So I do say the only being that we should be looking to for our identity is God, because He created us. He made us in His image. He had a plan for each and every single one of us before He made us. So it really doesn't matter if you're a size 2 or you're a size 20, because God still has a plan for you, and you're just wasting time and being distracted by this mind control that is going on right now in this society, and that has been going on for decades, that tells us that this is where we should focus our attention, when it's just a distraction from our purpose. And I sound like I'm preaching to you right now, but I'm just really passionate about this, because I've walked that road and I know how it feels to not feel good enough or not feel worthy in the body or the skin that you're in. And I just want to tell you that you don't need to do any physical alterations or surgeries or anything like that to your body to get the person that God has in store for you. In hindsight, I'm just absolutely grateful for where I was born, the family I was born in terms of we not having so much money to do certain things that I would have done if I had the money to do it at that time. And yeah, I would have even gotten lip injections at maybe 13 years old, because I hated that my lips were full when I was 13. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, at 13, I did not like having full lips. The girls that had the smaller lips were seen as the beautiful girls. And look at what is happening now in society. It's the total opposite. You have everybody with tiny lips going for full lips. So imagine if I had done something at 13, maybe an injection to take that out, then I would have to come back now in 2021 and put it back in. I don't want this video to go on forever, guys. I really hope I wasn't all over the place. I really hope you guys got something from this video, me sharing my story with you guys. I'm sure I remember afterwards things that I wanted to say that I just didn't get to say because I was just talking from my heart. But I really hope you guys got something from this video, and this is why we have the comment section. We can just continue the conversation down there. Give this video a thumbs up if you found this video helpful in any way, and if it impacted you, please also share it with a friend. And I would like to do these chats with you guys more often, so go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're up for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you all in my next video.